Hello and welcome back to this channel. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your prayers and your interest. It's been a while since I've spoken because I had a trip to the US. I'll tell you a bit more about that. Before we go any further, please like, subscribe and just share this with others. I'm so encouraged when I hear that someone has sent this to a friend and that person found some comfort in it. So please do so. Alright, so I have been without chemo for a month. The first thing that happened was just before I went to the US, I couldn't get it. I had a little bit of a UTI infection, so they couldn't give it to me, and then we went off to the US, and when I came back I was sick and didn't get it again. So I'm 4 or 5 weeks from chemo, and that's obviously made me feel a bit better, some things in some ways. But the USA trip went well. It was very quick, but it went well. I had to see some donors and some other things for the ministry, and we got a lot done. But while I was there, I had to drive down to Dallas from Midland, and the aircon blast for 6 hours. It was 40 degrees outside, over 100 degrees outside. I got sick from the aircon. First a cold nose and then into the lungs. By the time I got back, I was coughing like anything, and eventually I had to go and see a lung specialist and so on. And so they put me back on my asthma medicine, which I haven't used for a long time, but now I have to use persistently. I'm already much better. That's a week later. And so I don't have many side effects. Still the tingling in the fingers, of course, the neuropathy, still a bit of fatigue. And now that I'm getting over the lung infection, I'm actually feeling fine. Today's a good day. And I want to share something about this because when I went to see the oncologist the other day, obviously having a chest infection, she can't give me chemo because that will lower the white blood cells, red blood cells, and no immunity, and that can be disastrous. But just talking about my future prognosis and my future treatment made me very aware of the uncertainty that we deal with when we're dealing with cancer. Now, my tests came back. I had a CT scan, blood test. So the blood tests were very encouraging. My CA19-9, which is a marker for pancreatic cancer, was down. So where it was up to over 900 at some stage, it's down to 168. Very positive result. CT scan showed the same results as 6 months ago when I started all of this. So no further metastasis, no further spreading, no growth, but also no decline. So the tumors have stayed the same. And that in my case is a win, because it's 6 months later, I'm still here and I am still no worse off than 6 months ago, which is a great sign. And so you could say, well, what have you done? Why? Well, I have been eating well. I've been specifically maintaining my weight or trying to get it up, because that's a real problem with pancreatic cancer and others. Losing of appetite because you lose your taste from the chemo and all sorts of things happen. You don't want to eat, you lose a lot of weight and can look pretty skeletal eventually. And of course, I've been soaked in prayer and from around the world. And thank you so much for those who pray for me. So I'm going to say those are the two things that when I go into uncertainty in a moment, those are the two things I have done, apart from having chemo. Eating well, trying to keep my weight up, and then lots of prayer. I've also just looked after myself, obviously, not done silly things. But sitting with the oncologist, the question is now, what next? So I still am 2 treatments short of my cycle completed. The question is, do we go into that once the chest is cleared in a week or 2? Or do we take a break? Do I take the break now and then get back later? Because there's the option of taking, let's say, a 2 or 3 month break and then back into chemo, whatever, because obviously we still want to shrink this. We don't want it to start growing again. But I realized again just the uncertainty of cancer, because cancer is not cancer for everybody the same thing. Not all cancers are the same. As a matter of fact, every cancer is different, and every person who has cancer has a different stage and a different level and is experiencing it differently. And that means that even doctors and oncologists have to sometimes go and think it through. And a careful one would go and do some research. Not just give you a flippant answer, just say, well, we're just going to do this and we're just going to do that. unless they have huge experience on your specific cancer at your specific level. So I often see people really very negative about oncologists and doctors because they don't have immediate answers, and we always want to know now. But the fact is, someone who has an instant answer, whether a doctor or not, worries me. Anyone who claims to have a simple answer to your problem does not understand the complexity of cancer. And I want to say this, that you really hear me today, because we get so much advice from other people apart from our doctors. And those with the most certain opinions, you just need to take this, you just need to do that, are often the people who know the least about your condition, because they hear the word cancer and it's just one thing to them. But there is a vast difference, for instance, between a low-grade prostate cancer, which I also have, and stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Huge difference. On the prostate, I could live 15 years and not even notice there's cancer. But on the pancreas cancer, the diagnosis or the prognosis usually under 6 months, maybe a year. They are vastly different. Not only that, but cancers are treated differently by doctors. You know, to hear someone's on chemo doesn't mean they're all getting the same chemo with the same side effects and the same results. My chemo that I'm on is specifically for colon and pancreatic cancer and some of those areas down there. But it's very different from someone who has lung cancer, for instance. So again, when someone comes, and I'm talking about well-meaning friends and family who so desperately want us to do well. And I understand that. I understand that they have our best interests at heart. They want to see us survive. They want to see us healthy. They want us back to where we were. But often they are influenced by things out in the world or on YouTube or wherever, or stories that they've heard, and they immediately pass that on. And often there's a lot of pressure to try certain things. But I want to say today, every cancer has different outcomes, a different prognosis, and a different standard treatment. And alternative treatments that might work for one thing don't work for everything. Every stage is different. From a stage 1 and a low-grade cancer to a metastatic cancer, stage 4, which just basically means it's moved from the organ into other parts of the body. There is no one size fits all. So when I get a well-meaning, loving message saying, you've just got to use ivermectin and you'll be okay, my heart sinks, because I know the intention and I love the person who means good for me. But that is not an answer right now. And I'll tell you why in a moment. Unfortunately, we live in the world of influencers and quacks, where there are huge sharks circling cancer patients, seeing how they can make money. And whether it's through you clicking on their site, or you buying their product, or you going for their treatment at their specialty clinic, and you're going to pay for it. They're out to make money. They don't care about you. And so we have to be careful. We are the sufferers, but also the caregivers and the family and the friends, is to be careful what sort of advice we get and give. Advice. Any article, story of hope, testimony, product, new treatment option eventually ends up in my email box. And stories of healings and the certainty of this new thing. We just got to do this, or just take that, or start this diet, and then all our problems are solved and we're going to be healed. Or I've heard of 2 people now who have used this product and they're well. Yeah, but did you hear of the 98 others who took it and didn't get well? The problem with all these treatments is there's no empirical evidence. Over time there might be. There might be a day when it becomes standard procedure, or might be something that really does work. The problem is now there's still uncertainty about most of these things. You know, the problem with folks is that we all have our biases and partialities. Anything that strengthens those partialities or predetermined ideas or frameworks bring about unsubstantiated certainty. So for instance, the carnivore diet. There's the story that runs through the whole community that says sugars feed cancer, and you can go on carnivore diet and you'll starve the cancer, and it's going to heal you. Well, I was on carnivore diet for over 400 days straight, strict carnivore. Lost a lot of weight, brought my way down to where it had to be, and love carnivore, love meat. So when I read an article, I am prejudiced in favor. And so I read an article and someone says, you can starve cancer. I'm automatically drawn to that. And I can think, well, yeah, this is the answer, because I know sugar's bad for you, fat and meat is good for you. So we just start telling people this is the answer. No, it's not. Not for everyone. Not in every case. So I'm not against that, but I'm not saying that that is the answer to everything, because it's not. It hasn't been proved to be so. And so other people are, for instance, especially people who've come through COVID, are biased towards things like ivermectin, because it has been sold to us that this is the cure-all for everything, from skin rash to cancer. Am I against it? No. But will I just take it? No. Not without further research and some real evidence. Again, it's the people who are healed or who are better that give you the test and say, well, I took that. But then I ask the question, what else did you do? How do you know it's not the other thing you did that helped you? So these things are complex, and that's really what I'm trying to get across. There's very little certainty. And as patients, we love certainty. We want to know. We want the doctor to tell us, how long will I live? 5 weeks and 3 days and 7 hours. The doctor's going to tell you that. As a matter of fact, oncologists are very loath to tell you about alternative medicines because there's no backup evidence. They're scientists. So they work with what they have, and that has been proven. In my case, it's a specific chemo regimen called FOLFIRINOX, and it works for a lot of people for a time. So what do we do? What questions should we ask when we evaluate this constant stream of advice from well-meaning, loving family and friends? The first question is, when I hear about someone who's been healed, the question is he in remission or is he healed? There's a difference. 5 years is usually the mark to say someone's healed, and even then some people get it after that. Because many cancers we've seen go into remission for a while, on chemo, other things, and then come back. What sort of cancer was it? So for me, as a pancreatic sufferer, to hear of someone who's been miraculously healed by grapefruit juice, which is bad for you, by the way, in terms of chemo. But let's say it's grapefruit juice is now the answer, because this guy with prostate cancer is now better. Yeah, but no, that doesn't mean anything to me. What stage or grade of cancer did that person have? So even with the pancreas, if the person had stage 1 or 2 and was able to get the surgery, his chances of survival to 5 years go up to 10 or 12%, where without the surgery it's 2%. So what cancer? What stage? What grade? What is the normal prognosis for such a person with their diagnosis, age and comorbidities? What else were they doing or taking? Were they taking this medication or this product or seeing this guy plus chemo? Which one worked? What does the science say? Is there any backup to the claims that these people are making? Are there enough cases to draw conclusions from? I would love people to write and speak and say, I took such and such and it didn't work. Because it's only for the guy who seems to get better that they'll say it did work. But what about all those other cases where it didn't work? What is the source of the information? Who's pushing this idea? Is it an influencer, a marketer, a quack? Why are they pushing it? In other words, who benefits from this alternative treatment or product? Many sharks circling the water, as I said. Many people will tell you what you like, because if it doesn't work for you, they blame you. Say, oh, you probably didn't take it right. Oh, well, we bury you now. We forget about you. Next. We do have 3 people who have benefited. Well, they might just be part of that small percentage that is going to make it anyway. So we don't just climb on any bandwagon. And then the other question we need to ask is, will this damage my current treatment? I think the danger, and why I'm saying this today, is I'm hearing of people who jump from one thing to the next constantly. I saw a YouTuber a while ago who was so desperate, he was trying everything at once. I mean, from chemo to diets to supplements to alternative therapies, from massage to beet juice, I don't know. He tried everything. Suddenly he's off, haven't seen him for a while, don't know what happened. Don't be swept up by every new thing. So I started this by saying, what do I ascribe my longevity to? Because with pancreatic cancer, almost 7 months is longevity. Prayer and eating right. Trying to stay healthy. Now, that is the one thing we can be certain of. That God knows, and when we ask Him, He will do the right thing. But we also know that He does not always heal. That is not always in His plan. Because you have to die of something sometime. And if God is calling you home, you need to rest in that too. And while I love the prayers, and I thank you that I can sit here feeling pretty healthy today, and I'm still able to function, I ascribe that to prayer. But when the Lord decides it's time to go, I'll go. And I want to encourage you to start to look at other things and not become so desperate about the healing. Because often it's the desperation of others around us that drives us. And look more to the future. Start looking at eternity. Start asking those really important questions. That if all of this doesn't work, where will you end up? What will become of you? What does the next life really look like? May God bless you. Remember to subscribe and hit the like and send this to someone who might be overwhelmed by too much advice.